is a presentation of Team Glory Sports.
It's 9:05 at 97.5 Glory FM. Welcome once again to the Saturday Morning Sports Show. I'm Mike Wofford with you until 10 this morning. We'll talk about high school, college, and pro sports action this morning. We'll have a guest this morning live in our studios, Lee Coleman, the head coach of the Lakeview Academy Lions football team. He'll join me this morning to talk about their team off to the best start in Lakeview Academy history. Plus, we'll talk about college football with Dave Cohen, pro football with the Atlanta Falcons and Harper LaBelle, and much more this morning on the Saturday Morning Sports Show. Welcome all of our listeners tuned in to 97.5 Glory FM, and also all you tuned in to our new YouTube channel at Team Glory Sports as we bring you a live video stream every Saturday morning on our website. Make sure you subscribe to our channel at Team Glory Sports and like it, and make sure you're with us every week here at 97.5 Glory FM, your radio station for North Georgia sports. Let's look at high school football action from last night. Our broadcast game of the week was the 23rd edition of the Battle of Highway 60s. It was Chestatee playing host to North Hall, and the Trojans had a battle last night as they improved to 2-2. Chestatee drops to 1-3 as the Trojans win by a score of 28-14. You heard all about that game last night with Jody Kenny of North Hall. Also, that was a Region 6 AAA game, and two of the games being played in that region last night. A big one up in Dahlonega as it was Greater Atlanta Christian scoring 19 unanswered points in the second half, and they come from behind to defeat Lumpkin County 19-13 for their first win of the season, the second loss of the year for Lumpkin County, and that first one in Region 6 AAA, public versus private from last night. Also, it was White County on the road in Jasper. You heard from Drew Harris, the voice of the Warriors up in Cleveland, and they defeat Pickens by a score of 24-7. Other action around the area, it was a big game over in West Georgia with number one ranked Carrollton in Class 6A battling the number 2 team in Class Quinte, the Gainesville High Red Elephants. Gainesville's 23-game regular season winning streak under Coach Josh Nilbert came to a close last night as it was Carrollton winning by a score of 45-16, handing the Red Elephants their first regular season loss under Coach Josh Niblet. Other games around the area last night of interest, we'll be talking with Coach Coleman here in just a little bit on the Saturday Morning Sports Show, as it was Lakeview Academy coming from behind in the last minute of play to defeat George Walton Academy for the first time in school history, winning by a score of 34-31. They led by 10 points with 2 minutes to go in the game, and then George Walton scored two touchdowns, yes, on 3 plays, taking a 4-point lead. And the Lions had the ball with less than a minute to play on their 29-yard line with 71 yards, and with 6 seconds remaining in the ball game, scored the winning touchdown to improve to 5-0 for the first time in school history as they defeat George Walton. They're 2-0 in their region in the GIAA. It was North Forsyth defeating South Forsyth last night, and the game's over in Forsyth County. Lambert was a winner over West Forsyth. It was North Atlanta handing Forsyth Central a loss, and also it was Denmark defeating Alpharetta from last night. Other region games around the area games, in fact. I had to lose my voice there for a moment. It was Beaufort scoring 17 unanswered points in the second half to defeat Douglas County. Beaufort, the number 2 team in Class 6A, right behind Carrollton. Douglas County, the number 3 team in Class 6A, and it was the Wolves winning by a score of 31-14. Several teams had the night off last night around the area as Flowery Branch, Johnson, East Hall, West Hall, along with Dawson County, East Forsyth, East Jackson, and Commerce all had the evening off on Friday night. Over in Jackson County, it was the Panthers defeating Madison County 21-7. Jefferson was shut out by North Oconee 35-0 last night. It was Winder Bear game back on the schedule after taking a week off after the shooting at Alpharetta at Appalachian High School. We could go Wednesday, and it was Seconder. Of course, there, Tony Lotti, the head coach of the Jaguars, a former head coach at Appalachian. His team defeated Winder Bear last night by a score of 20-15. It was also last night Rabun County holding off Bremen and a close one in there, 24-21. It was Union County falling last night in their ball game to Rockmart. And also it was Oconee County defeating Stevens County last night in games around the North Georgia area. Coming up next here on 97.5 Glory FM, we'll talk more about high school football. We'll talk with one of the experts from NGPG, Ortho, and Sports Medicine about health care when it comes to sports on this Saturday morning. Much more as you're tuned to the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM and online on YouTube at Team Glory Sports.
If you need to communicate to a lot of people, you need Gainesville Signs and Graphics. They are a full-service sign company. From consultation through construction, they'll handle all aspects of your sign needs. Political signs, banners, magnetics, monuments, subdivision and street signs, as well as vehicle and storefront graphics. So trust your sign needs to Gainesville Signs and Graphics. Check out their website at GainesvilleSignsandGraphics.com or call 770-533-5700.
Hey, it's Coach Mark Richt here. Everyone knows defense wins championships. And if you're not using EMC Security to defend your home and family, you need to step up your game. They're who I use for home security and cameras, and you should too. I've scouted them all, and there's no better choice. With EMC Security's no contract and local service, they are a clear number one. So give them a call or visit them online at emcsecurity.com. That's emcsecurity.com.
Siphon Logistics' commitment is to provide you, the customer, with on-time pickup and delivery every time. Members of the Siphon family have been in the transportation business since 1984. The Siphon Logistics transportation professionals are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, providing maximum flexibility and options to produce the most successful shipping arrangements. Call Siphon Logistics at 770-287-8485 and take a look at their website at siphonlogistics.com.
Here I am on the road again, ready to pick up the kids from school, go by the grocery store, and do all the things a busy mother does. It's because I just left North Hall Tire and Wheel, where they made sure I was ready to go. They put on a fresh set of tires, checked the brakes, and even the battery. I know I can trust Mike and Matt and the guys at North Hall Tire and Wheel. They have everything you need, all the name brand tires at the best prices, and the service you need. They're on Cleveland Highway in Gainesville, so give them a call at 770-297-5308.
97.5 Glory FM. We're back with Dr. Chad Muxlow, one of the surgeons at NGPG Ortho and Sports Medicine. We have talked to him a couple of times. I want to talk more about the services that are offered there at NGPG. Tell me about some of the common injuries that you're seeing, sir.
Yeah, so at our practice, we treat any kind of musculoskeletal injury. So, anything from broken bones to ligament injuries, to tendon injuries, to, strains and sprains and those things as well. So pretty much any, joint or muscle, bone, that's where we're going to be focusing on as far as providing care for. Some of the more common injuries that we see, we certainly see a lot of shoulder injuries. A lot of times these are repetitive use type injuries where, again, it may not be a real severe injury or something that happened, but also start having some pain in there and start causing some issues for patients. And so, that's a pretty common injury. And again, knee injuries are pretty common. Less common, the smaller joints we don't see as much, like an elbow or ankle injury. We do see ankle fractures because those tend to happen where patients kind of twist their ankle, they're coming off a curb or stepping wrong or slipping. So those are a little more common. As far as like tendon injuries in the ankle or cartilage injuries, those are a little less frequent than we see with the bigger joints like the knees and shoulders.
All right, so as I get older, I'm having a little difficulty, say, with one of my arms, and I think, okay, it could be a rotator cuff, but I'm not quite sure. What would be some of the symptoms of having a bad rotator cuff?
So a lot of times with rotator cuff injuries, they may start out kind of small, just kind of a sore shoulder, kind of achy. A lot of times you see it on the side of the shoulder, even sometimes down the arm a little bit, kind of midway down the arm. A lot of times we'll see that because we'll start overworking or compensating some of the other muscles around the shoulder to compensate for that rotator cuff, and then we'll start overworking some of those other muscles, and the pain will be down a little further. But we'll start seeing some pain. That's usually how it starts. A lot of times patients will complain of pain at night, trouble sleeping. It'll wake them up at night, kind of makes them miserable because if you can't sleep, it's tough to get anything else done the day if you're pretty tired. So we'll see that as well. When they start getting more severe, that's when we're going to start noticing weakness, difficulty lifting out away from the body. So if you reach out to grab a pitcher of tea out of the fridge and you're like, oh man, that really hurts, and have trouble lifting that pitcher or at least causes pain, that's another common symptom we'll see with the rotator cuff. And then if it gets real severe, then we just have trouble lifting the arm up. So you're trying to lift that arm out away from the body, up overhead. And sometimes people, when they have a pretty significant tear, will have difficulty doing that. At that point, then we're getting pretty worried if you can't lift that arm. It's something that's pretty significant as far as damage in that shoulder.
All right, use me as one of your patients, sir. I've got pain in my left arm near my shoulder down toward the bicep. Is that a symptom there?
Yeah, that could be, if it's in kind of the biceps area, it could be, some biceps tendonitis. There's a little groove that the bicep sits in where it kind of comes up from the biceps muscle itself and then goes up and attaches into the shoulder. And sometimes we'll get some irritation, inflammation in that area. Sometimes we'll even get some tearing in that tendon up at that top part in that groove there. And that can be cause a bit of discomfort as well. So we'll see that, that biceps tendon can be a big pain generator if there's some inflammation or a little bit damage to that tendon as it comes up into the shoulder. And then it actually attaches deep inside the socket of the shoulder. One of the tendons of the biceps does. And sometimes that'll kind of pull away and cause some pain in there as well. So we'll see that kind of more in that front area of the shoulder when we're doing things like reaching out, lifting up, reaching back behind, like if you're going to grab your bag out of the back seat of the car or something, you're reaching back and start feeling kind of pain across the front of the shoulder. That could be more of a biceps injury.
Well, exactly. So go to NGPG. Not only offer surgery, but also you can do rehab, right?
Absolutely. So, we certainly try to focus on surgery as a last resort, right? So we want to try any conservative measures we can to get patients better. So we try, physical therapy, either going to see a physical therapist, or sometimes we'll set you up with exercises that you can do on your own at first. Sometimes we'll do some injections just to try to reduce inflammation if we need to. A lot of times it's a good way to get pain reduced quickly because we can put that medication right at that site. And sometimes it's just over-the-counter medications and things like that. But those are all things that we want to try usually as first-line treatments for injuries that are less severe. Sometimes, the injury could be more significant than that, and we just won't make progress. And then, if we have to, surgical options are available if it is that significant where we need to go down that road.
All right, so I can make an appointment there at NGPG, or I can just walk right into your office, right?
Yeah, you can. It's easy to call. We can usually get you in right away that day or the next day, usually without too much difficulty. You can just come into the office if you have an issue, and we can usually get patients worked in. We try to make time and have space every day to get people in if we need to, and kind of work them into the schedule for sure.
So tell me where you're located.
So I'm located at our Gainesville office, which is in Medical Park 1, just on Jesse Jewell near the hospital there. I also see patients in Dawsonville at our Dawsonville office. We have a brand new medical office building that just is being built there, and so we see patients there. I see patients there as well, and so we kind of focus on those areas. But we do have other locations throughout the Northeast Georgia area, such as Brazelton and Jefferson and other areas as well, sometimes some smaller satellite clinics. But main office is definitely Gainesville and Dawsonville are kind of our main locations.
Our thanks to Dr. Chad Muxlow of NGPG Ortho and Sports Medicine. We got more for you coming up next on 97.5 Glory FM.
This is Representative Lee Hawkins, your representative to the state legislature. I want to wish all the local athletes in our area the very best this season. Your team is very important to the success of our community, and I look forward to seeing you play this year and to see what you accomplish in the classrooms and in the community. I also look forward to serving you and your family in the state legislature. This message paid for by the committee to re-elect Lee Hawkins.
Thank you, North Hall. This is Chris Kinsey with Millie's Drapery and Decorating, and we would like to thank the North Hall community for their continued support. Since 1968, my family has provided the area with beautiful custom drapery, bedding, upholstery, blinds, shades, and more. If you would like some help with your interior design project, give us a call and we'll schedule one of our talented designers to give you an in-home consultation and estimate for your project. Call us at 770-532-3819.
Your home is part of you, and keeping it comfortable and well-maintained is essential. Conditioned Air Systems is North Georgia's solution for residential heating, air, and plumbing services. For more than 40 years, our family has been committed to delivering the highest quality service by our certified technicians and plumbers. Experience the difference today when you choose Conditioned Air Systems for your home's heating, air, and plumbing needs. Quality you can feel, service you can trust. Visit conditionedairsystems.com to schedule an appointment.
97.5 Glory FM, your radio station for North Georgia sports. Back on the Saturday Morning Sports Show. Mike Wofford with you until 10 o'clock. Waiting on Coach Lee Coleman of Lakeview Academy to join us here this morning as we bring you the latest in local high school, college, and pro sports action taking place this weekend. And what's happened this week coming up on Monday night, it will be the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Philadelphia Eagles from Lincoln Financial Field. We'll be talking with Harper LaBelle coming up next half hour. Plus, we'll talk about college football. Big day as it will be starting today at 3:30 p.m. down in Atlanta as Georgia Tech plays host to Virginia Military Institute, one of the teams from the Southern Conference, an FCS school. And Georgia Tech looking to get back on the winning track after losing in a conference game last week up at Syracuse, which has always been a tough place for the Yellow Jackets to win. They'll play at home today at Bobby Dodd Stadium, Hyundai Field, there in Atlanta. Also coming up this evening is Georgia on the road in Lexington, Kentucky. They will take on the Wildcats of Kentucky. It's the Dogs and Cats this evening. And former Georgia quarterback Brock Vandegrift, he will be the quarterback for the Wildcats. Last week it was South Carolina with a big win over Kentucky, while Georgia had that non-conference win over Tennessee Tech. So it's the Dogs and Cats this evening there from Lexington. And right here on 97.5 Glory FM, we'll be talking with Dave Cohen next half hour about college football, as it will be Sun Belt League action for us tonight. And really, it's a Sun Belt League game, conference game versus an SEC. For the first time ever, a Southeastern Conference team is coming to Atlanta to take on the Panthers, as it will be Vanderbilt, which is off to a great start for them, as they'll take on Georgia State this evening. The Panther pregame show begins at 6:30. Kick off the game at 7 p.m. with Dave Cohen and Harper LaBelle right here on your home for Georgia State Sports 97.5 Glory FM. High school sports action from last night, recapping the scoreboard. Again, as you heard right here on 97.5 Glory FM, it was North Hall over Chestatee by a score of 28-14. I think we had one of the best calls of the night last night, with Chestatee scoring their first offensive touchdown last night.
And off this time, straight up the middle, got the first down to the 35, still right to 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. That is Ben Clemens, touchdown. I don't see any yellow. What? Chestatee, 1 point away from tying it up.
And Ben Clemens, he had over 100 yards of rushing for the War Eagles, but also North Hall had 2 players over 100 yards of rushing last night. That's really something to see. 3 players in one game have over 100 yards of rushing in a game. And for North Hall, it was Luke Jenkins. He had a big night. And, of course, also Parker Carlton for North Hall. He had the big game also from last night with over 100 yards of rushing for the Trojans, who have now won 2 straight games. They've now won 7 straight in that series with the War Eagles, and it was North Hall winning last night by a score of 28-14. You'll see me on our YouTube channel with my voice going here this morning. A long night last night. What a great night we had last night there at Chestatee High with the game on War Eagle TV from last night. You can go to their archives there on YouTube at War Eagle TV, and you can see that anytime and hear Joe, Gary, Harper, and I with the play-by-play call of that game with the Battle of Highway 60 from last night. It was a Region 6 AAA game with the first game of the season being played last night. There are 8 teams in Region 6 AAA, as you have North Hall and Chestatee, Greater Atlanta Christian, along with Lumpkin County, White County, and Pickens. And the 2 teams that did not play last night were Johnson and Dawson County that make up the teams there in Region 6 AAA. Now, with Greater Atlanta Christian coming from behind last night to defeat Lumpkin County 19-13, everybody starts looking at the point now with the new GHSA playoff structure for Class AAA. If GAC finishes as either the number 1 or number 2 team in Region 6 AAA, the region will lose a automatic berth in the upcoming state playoffs, and there would be an at-large berth of any team in the state that might take that position there for the spot that GAC would have. Now, the private schools in Class A, AA, and AAA for the next 2 years will have their own football state championship, and while the other public schools, they'll be vying for the state championship, but instead of going the regions way we've done in the past with the top 4 teams from each region vying for the championship with those 32 teams, now they've got this new system with a point structure that you'll have the top 32 teams with those points going for the state championship starting in November, and the playoffs begin on November the 8th and 9th. And the Georgia High School Association is publishing their rankings each week with these playoff numbers. But the thing about it is you take your one-loss record versus your opponent's one-loss record versus their one-loss record against the other team's one-loss record, and you come up with this point system. And, for example, you could win a game, and according to what your opponent does and their opponent does, you could actually fall in the rankings. And that's what's interesting when it comes to trying to figure out what happens each week. So it's very important that teams win each week. And so we'll be watching what GAC does throughout the season, how it affects the teams in Region 6 AAA. On the scoreboard last night, it was Lumpkin County falling to GAC by a score of 19-13 as they scored 19 unanswered points there in the second half against the Indians, while it was White County on the road over in Jasper, and they won their game by a final of 24-7. And they've had 2 big weeks offensively there at White County, and this whole Pickens is just 7 points there on their home field in Jasper. That was a big job for the White County defense. Now, coming up next week, both White County and Lumpkin County are at home in Week 2 of the Region 6 AAA schedule. It'll be Lumpkin County playing host to Chestatee. White County plays host to North Hall, and that long rivalry between those 2 teams, that's going to be a hard-fought battle coming up next Friday night there in Cleveland. White County taking on North Hall. Again, Dawson County and Johnson will be back on the schedule next week. Johnson has to go up against Greater Atlanta Christian in their first region game in a few years for Coach William Morrell's team. It's going to be interesting to see how many points that GAC can score on this very, very young Johnson football team, which had a well-deserved night off last night after falling to West Hall last week. Well, that means that it'll be Dawson County taking on Pickens next week in the other game there in Region 6 AAA. Let's talk for a moment now about Gainesville as they fell last night on the road in Carrollton. Gainesville, the number 2 team in Class Quinte, taking on Carrollton, the number 1 team in 6A. Also told you about the score earlier. Beaufort, the number 2 team in Class 6A behind Carrollton, battled the number 3 team in 6A there in the Douglas County Tigers over west of Atlanta, and it was Beaufort defeating Douglas County 31-14. The Wolves should be still number 2 in the rankings next week. Carrollton with a very impressive 45-16 victory over the Red Elephants. Now, Gainesville had some problems with mistakes last night. They had an interception. They had a fumble. They also were stopped on the 1-yard line at Carrollton, and they just could not score one time there in the third quarter play, which was a huge drive there for Gainesville getting stopped. Now, for the team from Carrollton, they've got a quarterback named Lewis, who is going to go right now, it looks like, to Southern California. And, of course, the number one linebacker in the nation plays for Gainesville. He's going to Southern Cal in a couple of years, so he'll be there on that same team with the quarterback from Carrollton if everything remains the same in a couple of years. It shows you the talent that's on both of these teams. In Carrollton, probably the best team they have ever had in the history there at Carrollton. As I was mentioning yesterday on Game Plan, talking with Coach Josh Niblet, is that it's amazing that Carrollton is one of 5 schools in Carroll County, which borders Alabama out off of I-20, going from Atlanta over toward Birmingham in that area. And you look at the schools there, and a majority of the student body at Carrollton lives outside the city limits, and they would go to the other 4 schools there in Carroll County, but they decide to go to Carrollton, and they've got some outstanding athletes there, even some second-generation players whose dads played for the NFL playing there at Carrollton. They proved it last night by defeating Big Red by a final of 45-16, ending that streak of 23 straight regular season victories for Coach Josh Niblet in Gainesville since he's been the head coach of the Red Elephants. And it's only the 3rd loss they've had under Coach Niblet, and they're back in action next Friday night. They will be at their new-look City Park Stadium, Bobby Groom Field. The renovation's still going on, and they'll play their first home game there, looking for a big crowd as they take on Lanier in their first region game of the year. And it takes place next week. They're in Region 7 Quinte, and they'll play their first home game of the season next Friday night at City Park Stadium, Bobby Groom Field, looking for a huge crowd to be there to watch the Elephants and see that new stadium, how things look there at City Park Stadium, Bobby Groom Field. One of those picturesque places I've ever seen there in high school football. And it's the Lanier Longhorns taking on the Red Elephants coming up next Friday night. Also here on 97.5 Glory FM, next Friday night we'll be in Oakwood at the Hot Gates of Spartan Field as West Hall goes up against Franklin County. The Spartans had the night off last night. Franklin County won the game last night. They were taking on West Oak, South Carolina, had a big win last night over that team. It'll be interesting to see. We get a chance to see the principal there, Matt Stowers, a former athletic director at Johnson and at Chestatee, longtime friend. Hoping to see him and see what Franklin County can do. Franklin County lost to Chestatee in the first game of the season. That's the common opponent for both West Hall and Franklin County in Chestatee. And the Spartans have won 3 straight games looking in the first half of the season. And that's what's interesting. We were talking last night with Tommy Jones, the head coach of Cherokee Bluff, and there he has already completed the half of the season on September the 13th, something you would just never see in the past. And the Bears will take next week off, by the way, and they're back in action in a couple of weeks, starting their Region 8 AAA schedule, which will include West Hall. Next week's game is a non-region game, final one for the Spartans before going into Region 8 AAA play. And that's one of the toughest regions in the state. You heard from Coach Tommy Jones said that there are only 6 teams in Region 8 AAA compared to the 8 teams in Region 6 AAA. And, for example, there you have the 3 Hall County teams in Region 8 with Cherokee Bluff, West Hall, and East Hall. And the Vikings also back in action next week. Also, you have Jefferson, Oconee County, and Monroe area. Again, Oconee County won their game last night against Stevens County non-region play. And also, it was Monroe area defeating Walnut Grove last night. Also a non-region play, one of those rivalry games down in Walton County. So that's what's happening from last night. Still waiting to hear from Coach Lee Coben. I've sent him a message, waiting to see if he's going to be able to join us here in the next few minutes here on the Saturday morning sports show on 97.5 Glory FM. I talked to him last night right before midnight, and he was planning on coming here, so we'll see if he's able to join us this morning on the show. I'm with you until 10 o'clock this morning. Again, this evening, we will bring you college football action with Georgia State going up against Vanderbilt this evening. Well, coming up next, we'll talk about college football action, also NFL action. We'll see what Harper LaBelle up to this morning. He is out about with his son. They've got a baseball game this morning. We'll talk to him about that as he gets ready to start that. Hopefully with the rain falling, they'll still be able to play. We'll talk to him about that. And in the NFL, the Falcons coming off that loss this past Sunday in their opening game of the season to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now they'll take on the Philadelphia Eagles coming up on Monday night. We'll talk more local sports coming up next here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM.
Injuries are never planned and often happen after hours or over the weekend. That's why NGPG Orthopedic and Sports Medicine offers the Black and Blue Walk-In Clinic for injured athletes every Monday morning in their offices in Gainesville, Brazelton, Buford, Bushton, and Jefferson. No need to call. Just walk right in between 8:30 and 11:30 on Monday mornings. And one of their sports medicine and orthopedic doctors will be there to help identify, treat, and care for your injury. To learn more, you may visit ngpg.org/blackandblue.
At Jackson EMC, innovation is an ongoing cycle, a process without a beginning or an end, where one idea leads to the next. Solar power, electric vehicle program, energy-efficient right choice homes, automated switch technology. What we do as an industry is vital. We keep communities powered, so we must always have an eye on the future. Jackson EMC, innovation for today, innovation for tomorrow.
And we're back on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM. We may have to talk with Coach Coleman by phone, but we'll see if Lee is able to join us here in just a few minutes. But first, we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons and the NFL. Our play-by-play partner, Harper LaBelle, on the phone with us this morning. Hey, Harper.
Well, good morning, Mike. We got the rebound from a exciting North Hall win last night at Chestatee on the road, and guess what? You wake up and you gotta do it all over again. Whether it be college or pro, this is a great time of the year because all of them are taking place at the same time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I know how busy you stay working with us on Friday nights and Saturdays, working with Dave Cohen with Georgia State, and then you work with the Atlanta Falcons that work on Sundays. But you're out and about this morning as a dad this morning, right?
Yeah, I'm just getting ready to leave the house. My 14-year-old is on a travel baseball team, and he's not quite yet gotten the football fever. He's said he's wanted to play, but that's such a commitment that we just haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. So he has a travel baseball game. I think we're at Cherokee Bluff at 11:20. So, I'll be leaving the house here as soon as we're done.
Well, hopefully we get a chance to play that game because that grass field could get a little sloppy this morning with the rain falling there at Cherokee Bluff. So let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Got the second game of the season coming up on Monday Night Football. Let everybody know about the importance of playing before the big national audience on Monday Night Football.
Well, when I first got to Atlanta in '91, way back when, right, Mike?
Yes.
I had come from the Eagles, oddly enough, and we were on Monday Night Football 3 times that year, and a playoff game that was a feature. We were the national game. Everybody wanted to see what Buddy Ryan and Randall Cunningham and Reggie White were going to do, so it was a big draw. I get to Atlanta, and I talked to a couple of the guys my first day there, and none of them had ever been on Monday Night Football. So it's almost feast or famine sometimes. But we went to the playoffs that year. We beat the Saints in a wild card game, and then people started taking notice a little bit different. We were on pretty regularly after that. But it is an honor. It's a badge of honor to be on a Monday night game, especially for a Falcon team that really didn't earn it last year, right? They were out of the playoffs, but the off-season moves and a new coach and the excitement with the roster and all of that has boosted them up into that echelon that says, hey, we want to see this team a little bit more. Hopefully they don't disappoint.
And it's sort of good news, bad news, though, because you get one more day of practice, get ready for the game, then you get one day less for the next game.
Yeah, it all works out to it's great that you get the extra time for your body to heal up, but Monday night on the road, you got to come back. You'll be landing about 2, 3 in the morning. You get up to Flower Branch, and you got to watch film at probably they'll push it back a couple hours, but you don't get your day off. Tuesday is normally the player's day off. In this situation, they'll watch film. They'll do whatever conditioning they need to do and go in the training room and ice up a little bit. But Wednesday is a regular week then, so you really don't get an extra day off. You just postpone everything, but you lose it there on the back end of a Monday night game.
All right. So is it fair to assess really what happened with the Falcons this past Sunday, or is it something we would say we're going to learn from, getting ready for, like we say in high school ball, you make your best improvement from game 1 to game 2?
A little of everything, I think, Mike, because there's really no wrong answer when you ask, well, how do you figure this out, and what was the issue last week against Pittsburgh? Was it The players looked rusty. Yeah, I agree with that. Is it guys weren't getting open? Yes. Was it the quarterback couldn't move? Sure, absolutely. Was it the head coach for the last 3 years was the offensive coordinator and the other team, and he had them as well prepared to know every single person on the Falcons that he had coached before, their strengths and weaknesses? Sure, that's a part of it also. Was it that the Falcons have really, as a franchise, never done well against Pittsburgh? I would add that into the mix as well. So you put all of that together, it was a perfect storm, and a team that I was figuring, maybe you were as well, Mike, that they're going to score 20 to 30 points a game. They could do that quite easily. It fell very short. So yes, corrections will be made, and if you have a quarterback that is, let's just assume on the low end, he's 50%. In other words, he can move a little bit, but he's only going to move over and get sacked somewhere else in the pocket because of the pressure. He's not going to escape, at least not yet. That's a major concern, because we didn't see any of that for the 4, 5, 6 weeks of training camp, so we don't know. And I think that uncertainty is a real problem for Falcon fans right now. We'll know a little bit more on Monday night, but I think the Eagles and their defense are going to come after him.
If you're going to focus on Kirk Cousins alone, we said from the time that he was signed, you got to protect him.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't you want to protect? If you were the quarterback, Mike, if Tom Brady were the quarterback, or anyone in between, you better protect your quarterback. That's rule number one after you get him. Right?
But the thing about it is, you're not like Lamar Jackson, for example, or even his son Watson, somebody who can run. We're looking at the old-fashioned drop-back quarterback. He's got to have help, or he's going to have another injury.
Yeah, well, let's look at the negative of Lamar. Just think with me out loud. I'm not criticizing or anything, but there's a difference between assessing and placing judgment. I'm not doing the judgment part. Let's look at this thing. What's the biggest issue with him? If he doesn't have time, he's got to scramble, and when he does that, yes, many great things can happen until deep in the playoffs.
Right.
And then everyone will say, we needed to protect our quarterback better so he could just set his feet and throw to his open receivers. Making him have to run during the season is a great option, and it helps his stats. We win ball games. But if we can't do it in the playoffs, it's the same problem that every team in the league has. If you can't protect your quarterback, you're in big trouble. You got to find another way. Now, in the NFL, if you've got a really good running game, that certainly helps. But Chicago's had the best running game in the last 2 years, and they haven't made the playoffs, and they've been picking really high in the draft. So it doesn't really matter how well you run the ball if you can't throw it as well, and that means protect your quarterback.
All right, how about this then, Harper, about the defense, because you and I have talked so many times. If you can hold a team under 20 points in the NFL, you should be winning ball games, shouldn't you?
Absolutely. Hugh Douglas, who's a former Eagle who was on 92.9 The Game for years, kept saying that his defensive coordinator, Jimmy Johnson, back in the day when the Eagles were with, they called him Red, with Andy Reid, right? And Jimmy would say on his side of the ball, he's like the head coach of the defense, and he goes, dude, you keep us under 17 points, or you keep the opponent under 17 points, you're going to win a ball game because we're too good offensively. And that was a number for them. It might be a little bit higher, it might be 19 with the Falcons, but I think they did a very good job of stopping in the red zone the Steeler offense. Job well done. Did our offense, the Falcons offense, match that? No, obviously not. But if Jalen Hurts and Saquon and A.J. Brown and some of the others, if they are able to run free, yeah, we're going to have a difficult time. But I think we're going to do a pretty good job of getting after their quarterback. And as you know, Mike, in the past, once you put pressure on an opponent's quarterback, bad things have happened over the last couple of years.
It doesn't matter who it is either, is it? I mean, the effectiveness of any quarterback, once you put pressure on him, declines rapidly.
Oh, absolutely. And again, our track record hasn't been good over the past couple of years. You had a guy that hadn't been with the team for more than a few hours in Minnesota last year, and he gets out of the pocket a couple times, finds an open receiver. It's kind of like street ball. Hey, go to the green car and turn its manhole cover, and I'll hit you by the street light, and we end up losing a ball game. And we had a few of those. So hopefully that gets turned around. I love our pass rush. I think I'm calling it collateral damage. If Matthew Judon doesn't get you, maybe Grady will. He's going to move you into a different spot where David Omenyata is going to be standing. So I like how we're going to be able to put some pressure on. But, it's all got to come together. In week one, it didn't. Hopefully some fine-tuning and a little bit more time to get ready for the Eagles turns everything around from a defensive perspective, too.
Hey, Valentine, were you saying, oh, no, when you start seeing the balls go toward those DBs and corners and go, okay, guys, you got to defend them?
I almost say, oh, no, on every play. But, we got to build our confidence level to trust the team to be able to be where the anticipation is. Right now it was, oh, man, we've got this incredible roster, and you look up and down it, and they've made some terrific moves over the past couple of years. You think about being a fan right now in Carolina, and you look at your roster there.
Yes.
I mean, they were down by 17 points before they got in their seats, the fans were.
Uh-huh.
They're really upset. I mean, they would love to have our roster, but they've got their own problems. So we're not there, and they're not here. So we've got a really good group of guys, and the rest of the league wants to see what we're doing. I just put it together and get the ball across the end zone a few times, have the defense make some stops, and there'll be a lot of happy people next week.
Well, talking about happy people, how happy were you seeing the stadium full last Sunday?
Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you are. And I love it when you don't have to pipe in a bunch of noise. When it's genuine and it's there and it's real, that even if it's a little bit lower at times, people aren't going to cheer every time like it's the last play of the Super Bowl on 3rd and 5 in the second quarter. So let the fans dictate it, not the other way around.
The only bad part about it was too many Steelers fans there last week.
Oh, they travel as well, don't they?
Yes.
It's amazing. The Packers, San Francisco travels really well. Raiders do but there's very few teams that have a nationwide attendance at road games like what Pittsburgh has. And yes, Dallas has it as well. But I think the Steeler fans are very unique onto their own. Yeah.
No doubt about it. All right, have a good time today. Hope you don't get too wet. Your son playing, then we'll see you tonight. You and Dave with the play-by-play of State and Vanderbilt. Should be a lot of fun, buddy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah. Big games all throughout. So thank you, Mike, for having me on. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day yourself.
Thank you. Be blessed, my friend. We got much more for you. Coming up next here on 97.5 Glory FM, Lee Coleman just sent me a text. He should be here any moment, so stay tuned on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM.
This is Matt Nick, president of Duplicating Products, where we're proud to celebrate 50 years of serving North Georgia. Since 1974, Duplicating Products has been dedicated to providing top-quality office solutions and exceptional service. Our success would not have been possible without the support of our incredible community and loyal customers. Thank you for being an important part of our journey. Find out more about us at duplicatingproducts.com/thank-you.
It's flu season in North Georgia, and now is the time to take care of yourself and get your flu shot at Riverside Pharmacy. Nobody wants to be hit with the flu bug, but if you haven't had your shot yet and you've been bitten with the flu, the pharmacists at Riverside Pharmacy in Gainesville can help you too. They can fill your prescription with expert care and have you up and going before you know it. And they're your headquarters for all of your over-the-counter needs. Riverside Pharmacy across the street from City Park, serving Gainesville for over 60 years.
Hey, it's Coach Mark Richt here. Everyone knows defense wins championships. And if you're not using EMC Security to defend your home and family, you need to step up your game. They're who I use for home security and cameras, and you should too. I've scouted them all, and there's no better choice. With EMC Security's no contract and local service, they are a clear number one. So give them a call or visit them online at emcsecurity.com. That's emcsecurity.com.
97.5 Glory FM, your radio station for North Georgia sports and Georgia State football. Let's talk to the voice himself, Dave Cohen, the voice of Georgia State. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I am great, sir. How about you?
I'm looking forward to this one tonight. Georgia State hosting Vanderbilt. First time a Southeastern Conference school will have visited Center Park Stadium. We had North Carolina in 2 years ago, lost a close one, and Vanderbilt comes in at 2-0. They're coming off a 55-0 win over Alcorn State, and the week prior an overtime win over Virginia Tech. So this is not your uncle's Vanderbilt football team, and I'm not saying they're going to win the SEC, but they certainly look much improved.
And I go back to the success they've had in the past. I go back to the Eyebone. Remember that team a few years ago? But it's like, this is a wide-open team, isn't it?
Yeah, and it all starts with their quarterback. They brought him in from New Mexico State, Diego Pavia. You may remember last year with New Mexico State, they went into Auburn and beat Auburn on the Plains 31-10. So this is a difference maker at that position. He can hurt you with his legs as well as his arm, and we'll see if we have any weather distractions tonight in downtown Atlanta. But if not, Georgia State's defensive unit will certainly, hopefully, rise to the challenge of not stopping Pavia, but slowing him down a little bit, taking him out of his rhythm, and not letting him really hurt us too much.
All right, say there is bad weather tonight. Will that affect him passing the football, you think?
Well, obviously for both teams it will. Christian Veyer, for the new starting quarterback for Georgia State, throws a really hard football. And I think, obviously, if the football is wet, I know these guys are wearing gloves, but football is wet. What worries me, tip balls turn into interceptions. You're going to be a little bit more conservative and keep the ball on the ground. Obviously, Georgia State's got a bevy of running backs with Freddie Brock and Savion Wilkerson and Michael Dukes and Jordan Ford. And they're going to bring in, along with their quarterback, 2 or 3 guys that can really carry the football as well.
But like what I heard one of your practice reports from one of the receivers talking about after the game, I like our quarterback because it was like, okay, you win the football game, and then you're already talking about mistakes you made and how you can correct them.
Yeah, that was Ted Hurst, the transfer from Valdosta State, who's originally from Savannah. And that was the question to Ted, was with so many new faces on the roster, how do you, for lack of a better term, rush the process to build that chemistry between quarterback and receivers? And, there's really a couple of 3 ways to do it. Number one, obviously real-time game experience. Number 2, and these guys do that, they spend a fair amount of time after practice, running routes and just building that quarterback to receiver chemistry, just continuing to throw the football as the receivers get more comfortable running their routes. And maybe just as important, the amount of time that not just the receivers, but quarterback and receivers spend at the football complex at Center Park Credit Union Stadium watching film with their position coaches. And, again, kind of rushing the process in quotation marks there, just because of the fact that, when they took the field against Georgia Tech 2 Saturday nights ago, most of these kids had not played together other than Saturday afternoon scrimmages. So they're still in that process of building that chemistry from a football standpoint, learning how to play and becoming comfortable playing with one another. And you may have heard me say during that report some of that nonverbal communication that goes on between quarterbacks and receivers.
They look at, too, from the scheduling of Georgia State, a Group of 5 school, playing 2 teams in the first 3 weeks from the Big Four now, the ACC and the SEC. Nobody else is doing that.
I'm sure if we look around college football, we might find a few other schools that are doing that. And both of these contracts with Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Vanderbilt, they're home-and-home series. So, you may have heard us mention week 1 that Georgia Tech will return that game or is scheduled to return that game to Center Park Stadium in 2026. And Georgia State is scheduled to return that game to Nashville. I cannot remember if it's next year or if it's again in 2026, but Georgia State will then turn around in the next year or 2 and play Vanderbilt up in Nashville, which, I like those kinds of series. You're bringing an ACC school in, you're bringing this year bringing a Southeastern Conference school in, and the best way for Georgia State to create a little bit of excitement, make people take notice, is to play some marquee football games. You and I both know that Georgia State and all the Sun Belt opponents are good quality football games. But being in Atlanta, Georgia, and competing for the sports entertainment dollar, marquee teams in your home stadium certainly go a long way to making people take a second look at what it is that you're doing, in this case, Georgia State football.
And the best way to do it is get a W tonight, friend, okay?
That's the plan each and every week. I hope we play well tonight.
Oh, no doubt about it. Panther pregame show starts at 6:30 with Dave and Harper. Then at 7 o'clock, kickoff of Georgia State football here on 97.5 Glory FM and the network as the Vanderbilt Commodores and the Georgia State Panthers right here on your home with the Panthers, 97.5 Glory FM. Have a great day, buddy. We'll talk to you tonight.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Coach Lee Coleman. Looks like over the phone. So stay tuned. We'll wrap things up here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM.
Siphon Logistics' commitment is to provide you, the customer, with on-time pickup and delivery every time. Members of the Siphon family have been in the transportation business since 1984. The Siphon Logistics transportation professionals are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, providing maximum flexibility and options to produce the most successful shipping arrangements. Call Siphon Logistics at 770-287-8485 and take a look at their website at siphonlogistics.com.
Here I am on the road again, ready to pick up the kids from school, go by the grocery store, and do all the things a busy mother does. It's because I just left North Hall Tire and Wheel, where they made sure I was ready to go. They put on a fresh set of tires, checked the brakes, and even the battery. I know I can trust Mike and Matt and the guys at North Hall Tire and Wheel. They have everything you need, all the name brand tires at the best prices, and the service you need. They're on Cleveland Highway in Gainesville, so give them a call at 770-297-5308.
This is Representative Lee Hawkins, your representative to the state legislature. I want to wish all the local athletes in our area the very best this season. Your team is very important to the success of our community, and I look forward to seeing you play this year and to see what you accomplish in the classrooms and in the community. I also look forward to serving you and your family in the state legislature. This message paid for by the committee to re-elect Lee Hawkins.
And we're back on the Saturday Morning Sports Show. Wrap things up this morning with our guests. Hoping to have him in the studio, but we're going to give him the phone this morning. Lee Coleman, the head coach of the Lakeview Academy Lions. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, sir.
All right, Lee. So now the morning after, think about what happened. Everybody know what happened in the last 2 minutes of the game last night.
I will hope they do. That was the craziest 2 minutes probably of my coaching career.
So you had a lead, then you lose it, then you win it.
we had the lead. We scored a touchdown. We had the lead up 27-17 with a minute and something left. And literally they scored 2 touchdowns in 3 plays, all big plays. And we're looking at 50-something seconds left. We're down. We're down 31-27. Like, what in the world just happened? And then all of a sudden, man, our offense banded together. The kids kept their head up, and we just marched down the field and scored with 6 seconds left. It was the most incredible feeling and moment ever.
So the line's been drawn there. A lot of teams would have folded, especially with 22 players on a team like Lakeview. But instead, they just hunkered down, as they would say back in the day, and went downfield, went 71 yards in about 50 seconds to score the winning touchdown.
Yeah, I sent it to our FCA camp we went to this year, and we were having a dispute that was going on against Murray County. It was a lot of chippiness. It seemed like it was getting out of hand. And I had told my staff, I told my team, I told the refs at the camp, I said, guys, we're done. We're walking off the field because I don't want this to escalate. However, I had a freshman on the team say, Coach, no, we're going to finish this game because you always preach finish. And then the rest of the team just jumped on, yeah, Coach, we're finishing this. We're finishing this. And it was that moment when I knew I had a special group. And last night it reminded me of that. Those guys just said, nah, Coach, we're finishing the drill. We're going to finish this game out the right way. And they drove down and had an incredible moment.
It was an incredible moment knowing you've done something no other team in Lakeview history has ever done, going 5-0.
That is. It's special. I give all the credit and the glory to the good Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Without him, none of this would be possible. He blessed me with a great staff, a great group, the great head of school in John Simpson, the principal Mike Lawley, those guys just entrusted in me to take over this team. And for those guys, the newcomers to come in and to believe in what we're doing, believe in myself and my staff, and the guys that was with the previous staff, only like 3 guys, but for them to stick it out and to believe and have faith in this team, they see how special we are. We all seeing it right now, and it's just a blessing to come along to be 5-0. It's just a great experience.
All right, next time we'll get you live in the studio, okay? And get you here, and we'll go from there and have breakfast at Long Street Cafe, as we'll do here. You get a week off, then you got Riverside Prep in 2 weeks.
97.5 Glory FM is WGTJ Murrayville, Gainesville, and W248DL Murrayville, Gainesville.